Thank you for your patience. Cloud services are transforming the way people work. The opportunities from cloud are immense. It has brought to prominence new revenue streams for telecom service providers. Businesses too are starting to see the benefits of cloud, particularly if it can reduce complexity and hassle while coming in at a cheaper price. The opportunities and benefits are enticing the providers to go to the cloud. But additionally, they should also be aware of the challenges and risks involved.
Considering these factors, the topic for second panel discussion of the day, Cloud Connect, real-world implementations and implications for CSPs.
To participate in the discussion, I would like to invite our chairperson for the discussion, Mr. Venkatesh Iyer, Head India and SAARC EMC. Sir has been working with EMC for the last 11 years and has handled various roles within EMC. In his current role of Virtual Computing Environment Initiative, he, along with his team, helps customers in their journey to pervasive virtualization and onto the cloud.
Prior to EMC, Sir has also worked in Sun Microsystems, IBM India Limited, Siemens Limited, and Crompton Greaves. Sir is an engineer and also an MBA from Mumbai University with over 24 years of experience in the IT and telecom industry.
We welcome you, sir, to COMMUNIQUE 11. I now take this opportunity to invite the other distinguished members of the panel to kindly join us on the stage, please. Mr. Tirthankar Banerjee, Director, Emerging Services and Solutions, HP.
Mr. Narendra Nallapaneni, Vice President and Cloud Services, Tata Communications.
Mr. Siva Ramamoorthy, Vice President, Genband.
Mr. Nitin Mishra, Vice President, Product and Services, Netmagic Solutions.
Mr. Vinay Kiran, Vice President, Marketing, CtrlS.
Mr. Surendra Nath, Vice President, Videocon Mobile Services.
Mr. Vikas Gupta, General Manager and Head, Cloud Practice, Mindtree.
Mr. Anand, Dhand, Regional Head Enterprise and Operator, Nokia.
And Mr. Dharmendra Kumar, President, India and SAARC, Aruba Networks. On behalf of Symbiosis Institute of Telecom Management, we welcome you all to COMMUNIQUE 11.
I would request our chairperson for panel discussion, Mr. Venkatesh Iyer, to kindly preside over the discussion.
Thank you. It's really great to come back to SITM, first and foremost. So thanks for the opportunity to really come back and share our thoughts in front of you. The way we have structured this particular panel discussion is I will be asking a question to each of the panel members, and we would like to wrap it up in about 30-35 minutes. Leave about 10 minutes for the audience, because at the end of the day, it's your show, right? So we would like you to gain the benefits of experts being on this side to ask certain questions. So I've left time, I will leave time for about 2 to 3 questions so that you can pose to any of the panelists and get some insights cleared. So hope it makes sense, right? Yeah? Okay, thanks. So cloud computing, we are all aware, like it's one of the latest transformational technologies which is really going to change the face or the landscape of the IT infrastructure space, right? What we are actually seeing from an Indian market space, I would throw some numbers, right, to set the context. We did some study with Zenau Consulting, right? to essentially find out what is, okay, we are all reading about cloud and how it is really transforming, etc., but from a global standpoint. But what is it from an Indian context, right? So that's why we did a survey with, we commissioned Zinnow Consulting as part of EMC. And what the findings was that the cloud computing market for India, right, which is at about 400 million today, is set to grow about 10 times to about 4.5 billion in the next 5 years. Right? Interestingly, another aspect which also the result through was from a CIO, from the corporate CIO readiness perspective to embark on the cloud journey, we found in a survey of over 100 CIOs across all verticals, right? Almost 56% of the CIOs came back and said yes, that they have embarked on cloud in some form. They have evaluated cloud in some form for their organizations. Another 34% said that yes, they are looking at implementing cloud-based services in their organizations in the next 1 year. So essentially what we are seeing is, even from the CIO or the corporate community, people have realized that yes, there is benefit in terms of this kind of technology. Also, there was also a NASSCOM Deloitte study, which said that in the next 10 years, the cloud market, in Indian cloud market, is going to be about $16 billion US. So it's huge, right? And definitely, I'm sure the audience, you are aware in terms of what are the benefits in terms of agility, the elasticity, etc., which the cloud provides, right? Another aspect which is also being seen increasingly is from the service provider community, right? Today, if you look at telecom service providers, the telecom sector in India is having a massive growth for the last 8-10 years now, right? We saw in the earlier panel that yes, over 900 million subscribers we have in the Indian context today. Also with the kind of 3G and broadband wireless access rollout, the need for data services, the data pipes, etc., is really going to increase manifold. So that's where even the service providers are today embarking on cloud to not only manage the huge amount of growth that they have, but at the same time to also embark on new services. Having already set up infrastructure, they can definitely use that cloud-based services to really offer and ensure much more stickiness with their end customers by offering, let's say, infrastructure as a service, backup as a service, these kind of services to their end customers. Also, we are seeing a huge amount of growth of mobile applications on the cloud today. If you look at the mobile application developers, they are also embarking on the cloud because inherently, as we are all aware, the mobile networks today in terms of the bandwidth that they offer is not very significant. Also, in terms of the battery life of a mobile, definitely, there are certain challenges that we face. So if you have a cloud-based this thing for the mobile applications, since in the cloud, you have all the processing which is happening at the back end at the server side, you will have a good amount of throughput on the mobile side, and in terms of delivery, the service delivery becomes much more efficient and faster. So in this context, I would now open the stage and start with Dharmendra. So Dharmendra is from Aruba Networks. So Dharmendra, I would like to check with you as to what exactly are the business models that you feel the service providers can really take up and really deliver.
Hello? On? Yeah. Great. So, Venki, thanks for putting me on the spot, being the first one to speak, and thanks for the honor as well. So, cloud is all about when and not if. It's all about when it will happen. And that depends on a few factors like what are the challenges in migrating from the current infra to what we would design as cloud infrastructure. What would be the cost and the people who will make these changes. So it's so much about people as well. You can have a great business case available, but tens of people who pass it may not see it, and it takes somebody with real vision, innovative thought, and I would say something strong in the gut to make that journey. So I see opportunity that enterprises and markets which are going to be challenged for CAPEX can get to a cloud environment, move to a model of OPEX, and make sure that their organizations stay afloat, they stay competitive, and they have business agility to respond to changing markets and competition. I see opportunity for service providers where Everyone on the stage so far that I've heard says voice has become challenging, though voice guys did speak a lot and didn't get paid for the time that they spoke on the stage. So there's a great opportunity for them to get into data services. Data center is a space that fits in very well with the psyche that the service providers have. They are used to writing and offering big SLAs to their customers. They build networks which have redundancy on power, space, location. They have ability to train and retain high skill sets. So data centers and especially cloud compute, which is a very evolved form of business case that I can think of, is a great opportunity for them as well. So I'm assuming there's some more questions later. I'll preserve some of my 3 minutes for the other one. Thanks, Venki.
Thanks, DK. My next question would be to Vikas. Vikas Gupta, as you all know, is from Mindtree. So I would like to pick your brains, Vikas, and understand, since you all are into the development space, into a lot of services, etc., applications on the cloud side, what are your thoughts in terms of where the service providers can really benefit from these kind of services?
Absolutely. Being an executor of the new technology, I would say that cloud provides a low cost of entry for almost all the organizations. It's basically a leveler of technology. It's basically provides all those systems, all those things which an enterprise would have got, which was not earlier available to the SMBs or the startups, which are now going to be made available through cloud computing. And it's not only about cloud, it's also about the convergence on the cloud which is happening. So we have seen a lot of convergences happening earlier, but lately what we have seen is that technology is getting up to that particular level wherein the Angry Birds on Android and the oranges on the Android are still not available on Windows Phone or other platforms. So is interoperability the major mainstay which most of the companies are looking forward to? So these are not the only applications I should be talking about, but there are other business applications which currently don't have that kind of platforms where any development organization or an engineering organization find very difficult task to bring applications on multiple platforms. So that's where service providers come into picture. But then are integrations the main challenge for the service providers? Those should not be, because that will be a costly affair otherwise. So there has to be some areas where platforms have to be developed. An application platform as a service kind of areas wherein some frameworks or some accelerators would be available so that all these development work, all these testing work for multiple platforms could be handled. And it's a very important task that all these platforms talk to multiple clouds. And as probably you would have known or read, Amazon Web Services died for 7 days or went down for 7 days, and there was a very big hue and cry. But this also defines that, okay, these are very important systems which whole of the organizations or whole of the world is looking into. And if we have such kind of systems in place which can take care of having instances or having resources made available on multiple clouds rather than just being made available only on the cloud which you have chosen as an organization to work for. So basically the resilience which we talk about, that should be provided by the platform themselves. So Mindtree definitely works on these kind of things, and I definitely understand that various service providers have this challenge since the platforms are not currently available. So they must be investing in various platforms so that all these systems should be made available in future, very near future, so that all their organizations, all their customers could pretty much use those kind of platforms and use it very well. So probably a few things.
Thanks, Vikas, for that short summary. I mean, really appreciate that. My next question would be to Vinay, Kiran. Since you are from CtrlS, right? They are the traditional data center providers, right? So my question to you would be, do you see a lot of these traditional data center providers who used to earlier provide co-location kind of services getting after this cloud services market, and what is the traction that you are seeing in the marketplace?
Thank you, Venki. And good evening, SITM. I am really honored to be here. I would like to also get some more insights on this question and simplify it for the SITM people here, because Our discussion on cloud computing, I wanted to make sure it's not in the clouds. It's also simplified for you to understand. So coming back to the question which Venki asked, if you look at the points which Dharmendra and Vikas made, cloud computing as a technology is changing the ecosystem. And it has been a buzzword for the past 5 years to 1 decade. But we see a lot of traction in terms of the industry verticals, in terms of adoption. So as you said about the survey of CIOs, 58% or more than 56% CIOs have showed open arms in adopting cloud technology. But what is very important is to understand on what kind of verticals and what kind of segments these people are working in. So if you look at the large enterprise segment, people are watching, they are fence sitting, they want one of the biggest peers to adopt it so that everyone can join. That is one. Second, in the SMB segment, people are interested in public cloud, at the same time not very keen on taking a private cloud solution because of the cost and the OpEx implications. And the mid-market is currently very sustained. They show peaks of IT investments, at the same time changing the way the US impacts the ecosystem. In bottom line, yes, there is traction. Is it going to move up the curve? Yes, definitely. If you talk about the $20 billion opportunity coming up in India by 2020 and $638 billion by NASSCOM and Gartner globally, there is enough potential for the data center players. So just to give a small info about how data centers can contribute to this, where CtrlS is India's largest tier 4 data center, and we are investing 20,000 racks. The reason we are making that investment is we see potential, and there's enough pie for other data centers to also eat it. Private cloud on demand, we have seen in manufacturing vertical and the banking and financial vertical eating it very fast. They're lapping it really very fast. But in terms of the IT budgets and the importance of private cloud or the cloud as utility computing is still a belief and has to move into the factual mode. I hope that helps. Thank you.
Thanks, Kiran, for that. So what you mentioned is absolutely right. So definitely, we are seeing a good amount of traction. If you look at some of the examples, so maybe I thought this is the right time that I will share some examples of cloud implementations in the marketplace today, right? There's a company called Redbus. How many of you have heard about Redbus? Oh, great, that's great. So I'm sure most of you are aware that they are into online bookings, right? Bus ticket bookings. So when this company started, so they are all onto the cloud. So it's a classic example of how they could increase the number of ticketing that they could do in the bus services, and then they developed their own software and provided software as a service to various bus operators, right? So that's a classic example. If you look at the insurance industry, right? Star Union Daiichi is another classic example where they went on the cloud for their DR services, for their investment management platform. Because again, it really helped them in terms of agility. It really helped them because they had strict guidelines from IRDA. That's where the regulatory angle comes in terms of putting all their investment management platform on the cloud. So having evaluated various options, they finally chose to put it on the cloud, and it helped in terms of doing it very faster, one. Secondly, it also helped them in terms of reducing the cost drastically, right? Taking a totally different industry in terms of the media segment, right? Hungama Media, right? This is another classic example where, again, Hungama is actually an online promotional agency, and it also hosts a lot of these service providers on their platform, right? And also what Hungama, the CTO, what they found was that over a period of time, the amount of content that they were generating was really increasing drastically. Now, so then naturally the storage and everything really increased, but they realized that they are not into the business of IT management or that kind of stuff. So as it is increasing, they said, okay, why don't we put, and also again, interestingly, as they got in more and more customers for their online promotions, etc., because customers used to come to them for a short promotional biz and said, okay, I am really want to have this promotional campaign running on your systems, maybe for a month's time or a week's time, and then they used to go off, right? And the investment that they used to make in terms of setting up that infrastructure, in terms of servers, storage, etc., used to be stuck with them, right? So Hungama decided to embrace the cloud, so they started off by just putting the storage on the cloud. So they use the Amazon services for putting their storage on the cloud. Having succeeded, and then they saw that, drastically the amount they could, the kind of benefits it brought to them in terms of quickly provisioning resources and also reducing the cost, they said, okay, why don't we put the entire infrastructure on the cloud? So today, if you look at Hungama as a classic example, where they have 80% of their IT infrastructure on the cloud, right? Another classic example in the real estate side, right? If you know of Jones Langs LaSalle, JLL, there's a classic case. They are a professional real estate services firm, right? They also have a division called PDS, Project and Development Services Wing, right? As part of that, they really provide a lot of real estate services to corporates, right? So for that, they have a lot of project managers, which they have incorporated. So traditionally, what they do, they pick up contract from, say, a DHL or any of these large builders and provide them project management facilities so that they can complete their projects on time, right? So what they found that their project managers whom they had appointed were spending, so again, when they take up a project, they have to do right from procuring cement to, carpeting and the like. So there are a huge amount, lot of vendors that they had to really negotiate before they really provide the service. So they found that their project managers were spending a lot of time analyzing these vendors, finding out who the best people are, what are the pricing that it should be, what are the kind of time frames, etc. So what they did, interestingly, in order to streamline their operations much more efficiently, they went on the cloud. So before going on to the cloud, what they did was, interestingly, they went to Gartner, they studied the various analyst reports and found out who are the best players there. They also parallelly put up a list of criteria in selecting a particular vendor for this particular software as a service feature. And then they went to that particular vendor. And what they found, having implemented this kind of service, the amount of time that their project managers were spending in terms of vendor selection and the entire project management reduced drastically by over about 50 to 60%. So that meant that their project managers could handle more projects in the same period of time, and they could actually be much more efficient and productive. So these are some of the examples which I thought, interestingly, at this stage I would share. And before I move to the next speaker, which is Siva Ramamoorthy from Genband. So Siva, I would like to check with you in terms of what is the role that mobile networks really play in expanding the cloud computing beyond the core enterprise market.
Sure. Thank you, Venkatesh, and good afternoon, boys and girls. It's really a pleasure to be here in front of you. I was just thinking out loud as Venkatesh gave a lot of data about it. You're B school students, and what does it mean to be in this forum, and what is in it for me, right? I think, quite honestly, this is a very large industry. I mean, he gave the data. I mean, according to my data and Forrester, it's a $250 billion TAM by the year 2020. So it's a large segment. And one of the largest subsegments within this is actually empowering a variety of end users and end devices with apps and services, right? And if you look at it, if you look at the business model, the business case behind 3G, it's very much it's a fairly difficult business case. And some of the early rollouts of 3G, such as British Telecom and Deutsche Telekom, were very difficult, like $19 billion spent. Indian business case is not so bad. It's still quite challenging. And one of the important value propositions which 3G brings to the table is really a large, big, fat pipe down to the end device, down to the end user, so that the intelligence that's there out in the cloud can be enabled to a device, a form factor user, anytime, any place that's wanted. There has been, cloud computing is such a vast topic. I mean, there's this joke which says, like, there's too much rains in Bangalore because there's just too much talk on cloud computing. It's fairly true. But if you look at the fundamental aspect of it, cloud computing is evolutionary, but it's disruptive in a way. It's about the business model where the disruption is most prominent. And I believe the mobile handsets and the mobile form factors, being able to take the intelligence that's out there inside the cloud, the dirty cloud, the difficult cloud, and putting it into the end user's form factor, end user's device, is a big differentiating factor, is what I feel. Yeah,
thanks, Siva, for your insights. I just move on to Tirthankar. So Tirthankar, we have heard different perspectives from various panelists from here. I would like to pick your brains in terms of understanding what, according to you, could be some of the strategies which these service providers could really adopt in terms of, say, business models.
That's a difficult one. Okay, hi everybody. I am Tirtho from HP, and good afternoon. And it's a really lovely campus, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks. So I think what we talk about in terms of cloud is not only a private cloud or a public cloud. We also talk something called traditional systems that you already have in the in-house in the data center, which you use currently. Many organizations are using it, which you cannot just throw away and take everything to the cloud. So what we understand by cloud is something called a hybrid cloud, which means that you have something which is traditional, which is running, and then you have private cloud, and then you also burst out to a public cloud as and when required. So all these things together, if you can do a catalog of services, and if you can do an aggregation from different service providers and give it as a service to the end users, then I think that is the true use of the cloud. And that could be in a mobile device, or that could be in any, you can render the services in any end user form factor. So ideally, that is what we believe and promote from HP as the cloud system. So in terms of telecom service provider, and in fact, these things are converging. And distributors like an Ingram Micro is also becoming a service provider. Similarly, telco, also becoming like Airtel or whoever is becoming a TSP, telecom service provider is becoming a cloud service provider. So there are the best way, which I think some of the business models which are evolving and getting in there, is how you can bring aggregate services from the so-called cloud applications like Salesforce.com, et cetera, so aggregate that at one end, and the other end, you provide the SaaS, PaaS, IaaS to the end users. So, and if you can distribute it through various partners that you may have. So, you have a catalog of services for one partner, a different catalog of services from another partner, etc. And you can proliferate these as various services catering to different industry segments, intelligent solutions for different industry segments, targeting different industry segments as a telecom service provider. Utilizing this hybrid cloud model, which I just talked about, that is something which I think we are all going to and converging to tomorrow, particularly in a situation like India, where we have to use the old investments and keep it intact. Some of them you cannot just migrate to a new system. It's very difficult, plus it is risky. So how do you propose this hybrid cloud, I think, is something which we are converging to. Thanks.
Thanks, Tirthankar. That was quite insightful. So just adding up to what Tirthankar said, right, in terms of a lot of these telecom operators becoming kind of service providers, cloud service providers, right? So you have the Bharti Airtels tying up with Savis, right, which is one of the global leader in cloud infra and hosted IT services. Similarly, you had Aircel, right? Aircel tying up with Vertec Technology Services, right? Again, which is one of the leading independent network, managed network and cloud servicing companies. And then, of course, we have Tata Comm, who are already into the cloud services. So my next panelist, Narendra, would really, I would like to ask you as to what are the challenges. See, okay, we have heard all the good things about the cloud, right? Now let's look at some of the challenges that cloud really puts across, and how is it from a Tata Comm perspective, what is it that you're seeing?
Sure, thanks Venkatesh, and good afternoon everyone. I'm going to share real life, kind of experience in terms of taking these services to the customers. So while Venkatesh shared that there is huge growth, not only in India, but the numbers are huge as far as global revenues, as far as cloud is concerned. Very specifically, our experience, year and a half now in India. We also kind of launching these services in Asia Pac, UK, and North America. I think the big part of this growth also comes from unorganized kind of sector, which is more like SMB, 50 to 100, 150 user organizations, small kind of user base without any kind of IT skills. So the key challenge here is education, okay? So while there is a huge hype in terms of cloud, in terms of infrastructure, platform, and application services, you can't jump into, everything, expecting that, this is going to solve all your problems, okay? So our experience here is, whatever services you are taking, whether these are application services, which are SaaS model, could be, messaging and collaboration services, or business process services like HRIMS, etc. These have to be sold with right expectations to the end customers in terms of what these, services can deliver you on cloud, what are, your responsibilities, what are service providers' responsibilities, where basically data lies, how often you should take backup and, keep it in a safe place kind of thing, okay? So to summarize, yeah, education is really key in terms of what this means to the end customer, setting the right, service experience, over the whole life cycle. Coming back to large enterprise customers, I think these customers are already, working on virtualization for years now. A lot of them have not really put their tier 1 applications on virtualization, but a lot of web-based applications are put into, virtualization kind of environments. These customers are more focused towards private cloud, and they're also looking at some kind of test development kind of applications to be put on public cloud kind of offering. So again, their service providers have to be very clear in terms of what they can offer as a part of this hybrid offering. And more importantly, I think you're not giving all your problems, getting rid of those problems only because you have now kind of put all on a service provider's cloud. Okay, that's very, very important. Touching again, I think, other challenge where a lot of telecom operators like us and, our partners face is, a lot of these services on the public cloud are, on demand, very challenging in terms of business model, sure, but also in terms of actually providing the services, How do you, telecom operators have, legacy and, they've been used to giving network services over, weeks, like you go and buy a lease line, from a point A to point B, the standard, delivery time is, 6 weeks to 8 weeks, okay? Versus now, if you have to provide a server, on a mouse click point, it has to be available within, seconds or minutes, okay? So whole of this actually needs a huge development on the cloud stack and, the provisioning portal, which is very complex. It is also tying to other ecosystems like, credit card authentication, fraud detection systems, and, huge capacity management challenges on the back end. So, while it is said, it's cloud, but there's a lot of, kind of readiness and challenges, operators have to really prepare and really offer to the customers. Other one is, communication. I think we are in the social media, world. I don't know how many of you, have been, kind of seeing this phenomena. There have been large, kind of failures on the cloud aspect where, in the last 2 years, and a lot of this is actually available on social media, okay? So if I'm a cloud operator and my cloud is not available for, few hours, customers expect, in terms of what is really gone wrong, whether it's a storage element that is failed or a cloud stack that is failed, and how the operator is planning to fix it, okay? So it's no longer like you can keep all your secrets in the backend, okay? It's all available online, So, operators, are traditionally used to more reactive kind of support. We call this in the cloud world as a fanatic support, If someone is touching your service, your support, executive should exactly know what customer is trying to do, and he should be online, to support them, okay? So that's one of the key challenges in terms of, managing expectations, for the cloud end users.
Thanks, Narendra. So incidentally, adding up to what Narendra said, right, in terms of failures being online on the social media quickly. So there is incidentally a site called cloudfail.net. How many of you all have heard about it? Yeah? So cloudfail.net is a site which talks about the cloud providers and any failures that any of the cloud providers have online. So it gives the service kind of a dashboard for some of the major cloud providers online. So that's incidentally available, and it is across. So it's not just about one service provider, but it gives about some of the major cloud providers.
Actually, there are many sites actually which would rate performance based on multiple kind of aspects. Okay, so these are all available online for customers to decide. Yeah.
Exactly. So that leads into the discussion to Nitin Mishra. Nitin Mishra is from Netmagic. Nitin, I would like to check with you as to what are the kind of traction that you're seeing for cloud services amongst your customers, and are you seeing any specific verticals who are really adopting this in a big way vis-a-vis some other verticals?
So primarily, I think we have seen a huge amount of growth. Cloud computing has been one of the fastest growing services for us. Just to quickly differentiate, as you know, it has come up as well. So we primarily pay into the infrastructure as a service play, where we have public cloud and hybrid cloud and private cloud services. So what we have seen is, apart from the verticals, the real traction is based on applications, right? So if you look at, there are primarily 4 benefits from cloud which come in. One is the elasticity it provides, so you can scale pretty fast. Second is it's on demand, right? So it's available to you immediately. Thirdly, provisioning is online and immediate. You don't have to wait for your hardware to be delivered and then you provision it. And fourth is it's very cost effective, right? So I will just quickly, elaborate this as how we have seen people have leveraged each of these benefits. So for example, we had for the on-demand thing, we have Manipal University using it for their results. So typically what happens is, even institutions like Symbiosis, you typically won't have much load on your websites. But during the result time, when they have 1 lakh students have applied for your entrance exam, when the results are announced, just for those few days, there is huge amount of hits on the site, right? So Manipal University has typically used public cloud to leverage that. So they use it for 2 days, the results are announced. After 7 days, they give up the resources, and that is how they, the on-demand part of it being leveraged. On elasticity parts, we have seen a lot of online companies, portals, right? Something like uread.com. So these people don't know how fast they will scale. Certainly, for example, although Flipkart is another example, they haven't really used cloud, but since everybody kind of identifies with Flipkart, similar but smaller portals, they really don't know how fast they will scale. They'll certainly see they become very popular. They need quick scaling. So similar example like uread and others have really used cloud computing from the elastic perspective. Third area is on the cost side, we have seen people leveraging it for DR. For example, even for our own Netmagic's SAP system, we have a DR on our own cloud. So we don't need to invest again on a separate dedicated set of servers and manage and add all the overheads. Our own SAP DR is on cloud. Similarly, we also have some of the SMBs. They have experimented to save on cost, and they have used even for the production ERP setup on the cloud. Obviously, it won't be applicable for the larger enterprises given the load, etc. But some of the SMBs even, we have seen that they have even put their production ERP on the cloud, right? So those are some of the key examples how we have seen based on applications how customers have really leveraged cloud.
Sure. Thanks, thanks Nitin for that. Moving on to Surendra Nath. Surendra Nath is from Videocon Mobile Services. Again, Videocon Mobile Services is one of the new entrants in the GSM space. So my question to you, Surendra Nath, would be, in your opinion, do you think cloud could be a kind of game changer for traditionally small telcos and to leapfrog the bigger players?
Hello. Hello. Good afternoon to everybody here. I think for telcos, because today everybody knows telco is in a deep trouble, the whole industry, as we know. And the cost of operation is on the squeeze, and the prices are falling every day. And there is a challenge. And it has twofold challenge. One is the price, as we see. Another is on the environment. I think what I would like to bring you to your notice that in India, Airtel is the biggest diesel consumer after Indian Railways. So that you can understand how much environment impacting the operation is in terms of telecom. And there are new developments which is happening in the network side, where cloud computing concept is being utilized to improve the efficiency of the network. And to give you example, there are two examples I have in my mind. One is light radio, if you might have heard the name, which is the concept Lucent is working. And they have developed a product where the complete BTS is brought into a cube kind of thing and all. And this is deployed wherever it is needed in a very small fashion. And traditionally what you see a BTS which is there on the rooftop or on the hilltop where a complete structure is available and you have a big requirement of power and air conditioning, other things, they are all going to go away. So if you see a future trend going to come, maybe another 3 to 4 years down the line, where we are talking of a huge data explosion, where we're talking of huge connectivity requirement, this can be served by another set of new type of network element which is based on back-end going to the cloud kind of a situation where need-based support to the front-end infrastructure will be given. So the front-end is your antenna, your radios, and all the back-end which is processing of the backbone signal, baseband signal, processing of the logic, core devices, allocating the resources. This is all going to happen in the cloud, which is sitting on the back end, and depending upon the need where the traffic is generated, the resources allocated. So this is going to be another huge way, the same concept as what cloud computing is using in the industry for the services. It's a real-time cloud application, I would say, which is going to come in the network operation. The second concept, which is similar thing is going to come from the Nokia side, which is known as liquid network. Again, it's a similar concept, they call it. Liquid, when they give the name, means wherever the slope is, the water will flow over there. So, in my opinion, networking in telecom, which is no more now remains as the voice and data, is everything going to be IP and everything going to be data only. Even the voice is also encoded in data and you are going to manage the data. And the component of voice in terms of the volume of data is going to be less and less as we proceed further. So cloud computing is playing a very big role in reducing the OpEx and CapEx and thereby making the availability of the connectivity, I would say, not network, but the connectivity as a ubiquitous point wherever you are. That's what is the next phase of deployment will happen. The next thing which I see which is coming up here is, I think all of our colleagues and even in the previous session I had seen on the OSS BSS, a lot of development which we require to handle the customer profiling and delivering the service as the customer stroke subscriber want it based on their profiling, understanding their requirement and then tailoring as per their requirement. Now this will require a lot of processing, a lot of software development and I believe here the cloud computing will play a big role in terms of maybe there is a separate vertical coming out which will do only OSS BSS outsourced, like IBM is one of the partner or HP is one of the partner who are doing it. For us, IBM is doing that activity for us. But still I think we are, even other telcos, we are into still working in a silo where we create a model, we give it to the partner develop a software and then they manage it. Very soon you will find a very dynamic way of developing software, or we talk of agile software development and then understanding the customer requirement and giving them as soon as possible. In fact, during the lunch I was discussing somebody that you'll find a day when it will come that it will be looked from not as a telecom service but as overall service, whatever service you are actually taking in day-to-day life and almost all retail service, whether you want to buy a milk, you want to buy a grocery, you want to buy a ticket, you want to cross a road while you're paying a toll, or you are a mobile, you're looking for a Facebook. No, these are all the retailing business, and these all retail services need to be integrated, and the cloud things has to come in a big way to integrate all of this and provide the services at one point, kind of thing and all. The third thing which is really trend which is happening in a big way and everybody has noticed in any forum you go is the device, and as we listen that the right from phone to smartphone and to the tablet, it has become really ubiquitous availability of any application you are looking at, whether it is Facebook, Twitter or any such application, or whether it is email. And everybody on the move, at home, sleeping or going anywhere, want to access and want to see what is the update and what is the new thing happening. But this has created a lot of change in the pattern of the data uses in the network and how it is going to move forward, and which is giving us a nightmare to network guys to plan the network, because the whole traffic is some time of the day somewhere, sometime of the day somewhere. Your network must cope up with this. So these are the challenges we are facing. But I think at the end of the day, it is the subscriber who is going to take the Anand. And I define Anand as access of next generation application through network devices. Thank you.
Thanks, Surendra, for that interesting insights. That leads me to Mr. Anand Dhand. Anand Dhand is from Nokia. So Anand, I'm sure the audience here would like to know Nokia's perspective on the cloud, and how is it that you all are going about. So you could share whatever you can share in the public domain.
Sure. Just got to get new name, new definition of my name, Anand, right away. So good afternoon, guys. I've never seen a crowd being so silent. So either you're desperately waiting for the lunch, or you're getting all what we're saying. So either ways, you have to come up and repeat. Yeah, now are people awake with the smiles up. So great, really appreciate giving this opportunity to Nokia to come and share our views, and thank you, Venki, for this great opportunity here. Of course, given the conditions which Nokia is into right now, in terms of the smartphone which we look at, we see the whole cloud space is one of the most interesting space to invest into. And to do that, one of the key partnerships which we have signed up with Microsoft really defines that. Now, for you, all of you, people who have been following Nokia or who has the understanding of how the telecom industry really works, so there are two components, right? There is a device and there is operating system, if I put it in a very simple way. And if you see from operating system perspective, it really define what all services you are able to offer to the consumer, to the corporate, to the retailer, to the end corporates, to the walk-in individuals who can really define what they want out of this whole cloud service. What we believe is the penetration of the whole smartphone category. What we believe is that smartphone, which is currently available in the market space of $150, $170, and so on and so forth, will come down to anything about $90 to $100 price points. And that exactly will fuel the adoption of whole lot of services which we talked about. And that's what the whole Nokia perspective is right now. The entire ecosystem which we're trying to build along with Microsoft in terms of getting the whole developer forums to build the whole application space, or able to provide whole kind of 360-degree view to the consumer on the adaptability and acceptability of the application, is what we are all working in those tandem lines. The second piece which really talks about is in terms of the operator space. A lot of people have talked about in terms of the operators are bleeding, and they really realize that the 3G is a way forward. In many discussions which I had with Airtels and some discussions which we had with Vodafones and some other players, they're really betting big on this. And to do that, the amount of services to the consumer and to the corporate they're ready to offer at about 150, 200 rupees per user per month kind of price point is humongous. So I think that's where the Nokia also ties back and says that if you're offering such a robust applications and robust platforms, how do I make sure that on my 3,000 rupees and 5,000 rupees mobile, I'm able to give the same user experience to the end user? So be it a Salesforce.com kind of applications, which uses a very smart dashboards and so on and so forth, or be it an application like Nokia Money or NG Pays and so on and so forth, which really define the uptime, low times on the basis of the connectivity. It really triggers the excitement in the consumer space that this is the way forward. And that's what we are pretty excited about, and that's where we're going to be investing more and more in this space altogether.
Thanks, Anand. So that completes our round of the panel discussion. So what I thought is we would just have some time. I think we have about 3 minutes left. So maybe a couple of questions from the audience to any of the panelists.
Good afternoon, respected panel members. I'm Prashant from second year Marketing and Finance. My question is that as CSPs are carriers of data, and in the recent past we looked at the Verizon overtook acquisition of the Terramark and the Centurion acquisition of Savis. And also in the Gartner leadership matrix, these all three companies are placed as a IaaS companies and web hosting companies. So my question is that whether we foresee in future that CSP acquiring an IT company for end-to-end cloud service providers, and also what are the threats for the vendor-driven and IT partners companies from CSP?
I think that's a good question. It's not a phenomena for cloud computing. If you look at traditionally, telcos have moved into data center services like co-location, hosting, and managed security solutions. So, I know a lot of these acquisitions may not be purely, keeping cloud computing into consideration, but I think there is a lot of stress on the normal telecom network services, and a lot of new value-added services are actually coming into the telecom portfolio. So, I've seen a lot of telcos offering end-to-end solutions right up to the customer premises, okay? So, they are also getting into, desktop management services, into enterprise, okay? We are not, never thought of this, a telco doing maybe 5 years or 6 years down the lane, okay? So, very clearly there is a clear convergence between telecom and IT, and that's exactly making this possible. I don't think it's purely a cloud computing phenomena as such.
Thanks, thanks Narendra.
Thanks, sir.
One more question. We just have time to squeeze in one question.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, good afternoon panel. This is Apoorv Trivedi. My question is, basically it's a very general one. The entire concept of cloud computing, it's migrated from US. A couple of years earlier when actually the guys in US, they have a habit of making everything big, big stadiums, big burgers, big coffees. Now when this recession thing hit, they wanted someone to take care of this entire back-end infrastructure. So my understanding about this thing is the entire concept of cloud took off from there. Now when you see in a country like ours, India, it's basically, a lot of it has to do with the unorganized market. I go out there in the market, I tell them about cloud. Now the basic question that I get asked from my clients is, what about the security? How would you manage the security? Number one. Number two, what are the things that you can do in terms of cloud? In terms of helping out with the CapEx, the OpEx, and not only that, but in terms of the revenues. Thank you.
Sure. Maybe, okay, I'll just touch upon and then pass it on to Nitin. So answering your question in terms of putting everything big, etc. One of the basic needs, as you rightly pointed out, is the downturn really propagated the improvement in cloud computing. Also, if you look at corporates today, information is growing, right? Information is growing at the rate of 60% year on year. Now, are the corporate IT budgets growing at the same pace? Not necessarily, right? So that is also one of the reasons why the corporates are looking at a new way of, and at the same time, again, interestingly, the business is putting a huge amount of pressure on the CIO to ensure the agility, because it's a competitive world. The industry is quite competitive, right? Across industries, across verticals, if you see, it's a competitive industry. So in order to respond to market dynamics much more faster, that's where the agility aspect comes in of cloud. And also, in terms of, because the information growth and IT not really keeping pace with that, so that is precisely the reason why cloud computing is really gaining in prominence, right? Your question in terms of security, more before I touch upon, I would expect Nitin, since he's from that field, he can really touch that up.
I just want to add one thing. Next time when you go and meet, some of this unorganized SMB customer, okay, who's talking about security, so you should ask in terms of, if he's got maybe 10 computers in his, office, how secured his environment and how much he's actually spending for security. So the best way to challenge there is, I don't say challenge, basically help the customer to understand is the way he's running his business is more vulnerable today. Okay, if he's exposed to internet, he doesn't know what's really happening, on his network and on his data. If he's actually coming to a recognized, kind of an operator who's offering cloud service, these guys are putting a lot of other means in place like DDoS detection, IDS. A lot of this are very expensive platforms. But being CSPs, they have to run this because they have to take care of multiple customers' data. So that's a much better way to understand a customer problem and give a solution to him.
So I think quickly to add on the security part of it. So primarily this is a question always been there whenever anybody has to outsource anything, right? Right from people are outsourcing their processes to IT infrastructure, right? When in a BPO scenario, your data is lying with the BPO and there are security challenges there, but still the world has moved to that. Similarly, when you look at IT infrastructure specifically, right, there are two kinds of main security issues which people look at. One is the network security, where somebody can hack into your systems and do something. And second is the data security, right? Whether you can lose the data or something goes wrong. Let's say the SAN of the service provider crashes, right? What happens to the data if there is no copy, right? So typically on the network security part, it's pretty much the same thing. Whether it's as far as you're connected to the internet, whether it's in-house or with a service provider, it doesn't matter. It purely depends on what kinds of security measures you are taking through firewalling or network attack management, real-time security and all that. So whatever measures you can take in your setup are available with the providers as well. I think more people are worried about the data security part of it, right? Where obviously there are the certifications, etc., which the service providers are showing so that to give the confidence to the enterprises that the data is secure. But I'm sure that is the area which will take a little longer for everybody to accept that, I put it on the cloud and my data won't get leaked or it won't get destroyed or things like that, right? So that is where most of the people who are very concerned about their data security, they are more opting for a private kind of a scenario rather than putting it onto public.
Thanks, Nitin. And also interestingly, as he rightly said, most of the service providers today are investing in best practices in terms of having the right kind of certifications in place and also having IAM kind of this thing so that from an access point, you are really covered. There are multi-tenancy in place. So there are multiple such aspects which service providers are doing. But at the same time, the onus is also on the user to ensure that they take care of these kind of services which the service provider has to ensure that his entire data, the entire tunnel is totally secure. Yeah. So
I just wanted to add very quickly on this that, for your information, there is something called a CSA, Cloud Security Alliance.org. You may like to go there and check because that's sort of a global organization which is trying to standardize some of these security concerns.
Thanks a lot. I think we have just overshot our time, so I would like to end this. Thanks a lot. Thanks for being a fantastic audience.
I would like to thank all our dignitaries for giving valuable inputs on cloud. Your insights on business models, opportunities, challenges, and strategies to be followed by service providers would go a long way in enlightening their students.
I now invite my colleagues to felicitate our esteemed dignitaries with mementos as a gesture of our appreciation. We thank our panel members to have joined us and would now request them to kindly take their seats amongst the audience.